On this episode of OFallon Matters, we'll explore the mystery of Sage Chapel Cemetery, watch children read to adorable dogs, and learn a few spring tips that will have your lawn looking great. That's all coming up next on OFallon Matters. Welcome to this episode of OFallon Matters. Our first story features a distinctive cemetery whose heritage has faded over the years. Joe Meyer is here with a story of rebirth and remembrance.
If you ever drive along Veterans Memorial Parkway in O'Fallon, you may notice an open field with gravestones scattered about next to the VFW. This mysterious cemetery is known as Sage Chapel Cemetery. In fact, Sage Chapel Cemetery is O'Fallon's first and only African-American cemetery.
It appears this cemetery was started around 1880. Before then, I don't know how it was done, but there was no formal place in this entire area in O'Fallon for African-Americans to be buried. There just wasn't.
Post-emancipation, a lot of blacks, they started their own churches because they couldn't necessarily go worship with the white population, and one of those churches was the African Methodist Episcopal Church, and it became very popular with emancipated slaves.
The story of Sage Chapel Cemetery is sort of a mystery. According to longtime O'Fallon resident Arlene White, the church and cemetery were named Sage Chapel after the sage fields that grew wild on the middle portion of the Sondren property. It's said that early black folks used to gather in the fields to worship and later on pooled their resources to build a church.
A group of people got together and they purchased this cemetery in 1881 along with some property on Sondren. See, the trustees of that church membership, they purchased it, and their names are on the deed. And it was purchased from Jasper Castillo and his wife. She had been a Keithley at one time, and this cemetery was originally part of Samuel Keithley's property. At this point, I couldn't be for sure who owns it, because I'm sure when the African AME Church, I believe, that dissolved in sometime about 1920. I'm sure that the deed was handed over or sold to another denomination in town, but I haven't been able to find that deed trail just yet.
Over time, a few local residents kept up with Sage Chapel Cemetery. Well-respected O'Fallon resident Billy Hayden took over upkeep for many years.
As a child, I can remember coming to the cemetery with my dad because he would take care of the graves and make sure it was kept up. And at that time, a lot of the blacks in O'Fallon had moved out. So there was maybe 2 or 3 families that were left. As I came here with my dad as a little girl, he used to keep the cemetery. Now, there used to be a family called the Decker family. And Clyde Decker used to dig all the graves for the cemetery. And I can remember coming up here with my dad when he was digging graves. I can remember seeing different people buried in this cemetery. That's why it's strange to me that all the markers that in the middle of the cemetery are now gone, because there's graves there.
Once Billy passed away, the cemetery fell in disrepair. Occasionally, a few Boy Scout troops would come through and mow the grass. But then, by chance, Jim, Mary, and Phyllis came to Sage Chapel's rescue.
When I came here about a year ago, it didn't look terrible, but it was messy, it was junky. There were huge piles of branches and leaves, and there were so many gravestones that, that were hidden. They were under trees, under dead brush. They, you know, I didn't even know that. I mean, I could look at all different areas now, and now I look out and go, yeah, I can see it. Now I can see it. I can see it. So really, we just got a group. We kind of threw it out there to the universe, and people started coming in. Mary Hogan Smith came into my life, best friend. Phyllis Hayden came into my life, best friend. Never knew them before.
Through my research, I've connected a lot of people with their heritage. I had a woman from California fly in and visit the cemetery because I had answered a query on Ancestry.com about if anyone had any information about the Claiborne family from O'Fallon. And I did, and that message was on Ancestry for 8 years before I answered it.
As a community, let's make sure that Sage Chapel Cemetery is preserved for future generations so they can learn more about their past.
This community of people, they contributed just as much to our society as the white people, but their story really isn't told. And for all the accomplishments that the white citizens have had in our community, it was 10 times as hard for the black community to have those same accomplishments, and they did.
Children are building up their reading skills and confidence all across the St. Charles County Library District by reading to an attentive and fluffy audience. Brett Fickus is here with their story.
It's a boy threw a ball.
When you're just beginning to build confidence in your reading skills, sounding out words in front of an audience can be scary. But if your audience has 4 legs, a big furry coat, and an even bigger smile, it makes it a whole lot easier. That's the idea behind the Tail Waggers program in the St. Charles County Library District. Kids can bring in their own books to read or help themselves to a book from the library. And these certified therapy dogs adore all of the attention. It's a fun way to promote literacy, which is probably why our libraries love the program.
I love seeing the kids come in with books. They're excited about reading. They're excited about being with the dogs, and I love seeing them. I think it really gets kids into the library. I guess it gets them excited about literacy, and that's what we're all about.
These dogs and their owners are members of a program called Love on a Leash. The St. Charles chapter has 23 members, and they've been all over the county. These wagging tails have brought joy to hospitals, special education classrooms, and assisted living facilities throughout the area. And libraries are a natural addition.
We got a call from the district librarian of St. Charles, and they were really excited about getting our dogs started coming to the library. They've got children from kindergarten to 5th grade who they thought it would be a good idea for them to practice their reading skills with the dogs. The dogs don't judge, they don't correct. It's, you know, the children could sit real close with the dogs and just, you know, read them a book and practice their skills. So it's really been working out really well.
Love on a Leash has made it their mission to bring a fluffy kind of love into the lives of people in the community. Even though their dogs range from tiny Chihuahuas to enormous Newfoundlands, they all have 2 things in common: a calm demeanor and endless love for people. This is why their sessions are a great way for younger kids to get introduced to dogs.
I think some of the kids, they're not used to being around dogs, and it's just something kind of fun, you know, something new to them. They get to pet the dogs, they get to talk to the dogs. Like I said before, they get to practice their reading skills with them. It's just something new. You know, you don't typically see dogs in libraries or dogs in schools, and so it's just something real fun and different for the kids to do.
I can smell the popcorn already.
Love on a Leash cycles their way through the county libraries, and they'll be headed to O'Fallon's branches soon. Registration and more info are available at the St. Charles County Library website, youranswerplace.org. If your children would love to read to an attentive dog, this is a can't-miss opportunity.
Yeah, it's just so much fun. Even the parents, you know, sometimes if the kids are really concentrated on their reading, the parents will sit and they'll ask questions about the dogs or want to know more about our program. So it's not just for the kids, but the parents as well as older siblings enjoy it too.
If our first responders need help during a major emergency, O'Fallon CERT graduates are standing by, ready to help with searches, rescues, and more.
If a major disaster hits O'Fallon, like a serious tornado or an earthquake, our professional emergency responders can be delayed or overwhelmed by the volume of emergency needs.
O'Fallon CERT team.
That's where O'Fallon's Community Emergency Response Team steps in, handling light search and rescue, first aid medical support, and offering their assistance to our trained emergency response personnel.
Having 2 victims from this room.
Today, for the trainees, we went through a tornado disaster where a building was damaged by a tornado. The first responders were inundated because there were multiple locations, so they didn't have the staff to send someone to a particular building complex. And we sent in our team to handle the ICS, so the command structure, medical operations, and send out search teams to extricate the victims and then get them the medical need that they needed until the professionals arrived.
But before participants got to strap on their hard hats and practice their abilities in an emergency situation, they took part in a high-intensity course of informational lectures and skill practicums. And the best thing about the CERT program is that it doesn't just teach disaster skills. Communication, teamwork, empathy, and even general disaster information are all a part of the curriculum. It's a crash course on dealing with the fallout of a disaster of any kind. And it's information these participants can put to use to save lives going forward.
Yeah, well, I didn't have a clue when I came into the class what it was all going to be about, and just opened my eyes, and I got the big picture now on how it all comes together and the teamwork concept and how the different operations work together. And
I've done research online about how to prepare yourself as far as disaster kits and minimizing some of the hazards in your home. But as far as first response, things like that, the medical, the triage, that was all brand new to me, and I'm really glad to know now.
Open to people of all walks of life, this free program offers something you really can't get anywhere else. It's one thing to read about emergency responses, but it's another to actually work through one. And that's where our live disaster scenario really shines.
You just keep breathing. Count down from 10. Hurry up! All right, well, hurry up!
Even though it's held in a safe environment with volunteers only pretending to be injured, it's a great way to experience and understand the chaos a disaster can bring. And if a real disaster does hit O'Fallon, our CERT teams are standing by, ready to jump in until professional emergency crews can arrive.
Can you help me, please? Help me!
I think we'll make a large difference. We are part of the community. We're there to help out in whatever capacity they need, whether it's a small disaster or a large-scale event. That's why we're here. We care about our neighbors. We care about each other. I think we'll help out in a great capacity.
Offered several times a year, the CERT program can also help members maintain and refine their skills by participating in numerous exercises and activities. And the skills learned apply just as well to smaller disasters, like fires or minor injuries. If this looks like something you're interested in, visit our CERT page on the O'Fallon City website for more information.
Anyone who wants to be involved and play a larger role in their community, whether you just want to know about it, so if a problem occurs, you don't want to be part of the problem, you want to be part of the solution. That's what we tell everyone. It doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter your background, there's always a job available for anyone in the CERT organization.
I feel a lot better that there are 11 of us now in the O'Fallon community that have a better knowledge of what to do should something strike here in our neighborhood.
And then swing his legs back out towards you guys, all right? I got his head.
It's time for a break. When we come back, we'll learn about the O'Fallon Volunteer Services Department's latest campaign. Later on, we'll catch up with O'Fallon's landscape manager for our few spring lawn tips. Stay with us for OFallon Matters. Welcome back to OFallon Matters. O'Fallon's Volunteer Services Department is looking for a few good volunteers. Find out how you can help out your community and have fun along the way.
The City of O'Fallon's Volunteer Services Department coordinates the volunteer efforts of citizens who are interested in helping our community grow. O'Fallon volunteers enhance city-sponsored activities, programs, and events by providing additional support, helping to ensure their success.
We think O'Fallon is a great place for people to come out and volunteer. When they come out here, they want that closeness of their neighbors and being part of a community, and volunteering actually helps them to accomplish that.
Volunteer O'Fallon makes sure that we line up the volunteer opportunity to match your passion and interest. So we don't want to just have somebody come out and do something just because. We want to make sure that it's meaningful, that it's fun.
Individual volunteer service benefits the entire community, and volunteering is for anyone who has an interest in community service.
If there's something that you feel passionate about, there's something that you want to do more, if you just want to change in scenery, or you just want to feel like you're doing something that matters, that's why I would say volunteer, because there's something for everyone to do.
O'Fallon's Volunteer Services Department is launching a new and innovative volunteer campaign called Volunteer O'Fallon.
We're tying ourselves to other larger cities in the country, to be honest. Larger municipalities are finding ways to give community members a way to volunteer, not just in the city, but to find resources that are available, other organizations that are able to meet their needs and their passions in order to continue to have O'Fallon rank as one of the best cities in which to live.
And so what we hope Volunteer O'Fallon will do is give people that sense that we are part of something bigger than just our city, but we encompass the entire community. And Volunteer O'Fallon will help to do that.
It's never too late to sign up for upcoming events.
It's spring in O'Fallon, so that means we have a lot of environmental opportunities out in our parks, in our creeks, and along our roadsides. We also have a lot of fun holiday-themed events, and then looking forward to the summer, a lot of concerts and even a challenge run.
There are several ways to find out how you can give back to your community.
Some of the different ways you can find volunteer opportunities is our Facebook page, which is City of O'Fallon Volunteer Services. Our Twitter account is @CityVolunteer, and we also have a Flickr account. Flickr is where you can just look at all our photos, and just gives you an idea of what different opportunities we have and shows you exactly what it looks like to come out and volunteer for us.
Many of our volunteers already perform some type of volunteer service. And as our events are community-focused, volunteers do not need to be residents of O'Fallon to participate in our program.
There are such a vast opportunities out there to get involved that people first need to know where their interests lie. We can help them to find that connection. And if they don't quite know, we can help them to find that.
This unit of the O'Fallon Police Department helps keep our streets safe, along with handling a variety of traffic emergencies. Brett Fickus is here with their story.
O'Fallon's busy streets handle tens of thousands of cars each day as people head out to their jobs, local stores, or even their homes. And in O'Fallon's Police Department, there's one division that works to ensure the safety of all of our community's motorists.
The primary responsibility for the traffic officers surround public safety. They respond to traffic crashes. They're especially trained in traffic crash investigations, and they also spend a lot of time in the subdivisions. You know, just their mere presence on the streets can help people be reminded that they may need to slow down or just drive more cautiously.
Like with most police divisions, there's no typical day for these officers. But with their dedication and training, they're ready for whatever the road might bring.
Normally when we start in the morning, we start at the beginning of the shift and we go out, especially during rush hour, and look for aggressive driving or traffic violations. Not to mention, normally that's when we get the majority of the accidents is during rush hour. And it's just basically patrol throughout the day for about the same thing. We also try to keep an eye out for suspicious driving or other violations, such as expired license plates, anything like that. Conduct traffic stops.
Our traffic officers are professionals with many years of experience keeping O'Fallon safe. As one very public facet of the police department, this experience is invaluable when dealing with the community each day.
It's definitely a benefit for the citizens of O'Fallon to have the veteran officers like I have here in the traffic section. All the officers are trained as advanced crash investigators, and along with that they're also reconstructionists, which is about as much training as they can get in the area of crash investigations.
But even though their job requires stopping motorists for traffic violations, these officers would be happier if they never had to perform another stop again.
Description of this job is if I could drive around all day and not have to write a ticket. I would rather everybody, be out there driving safe, taking their time, giving them ample time to get to where they're going. The less crashes that are called, the less property damage and the money it costs as far as insurance rates. So I myself, as far as tickets go, would just prefer to be out not writing any.
Whether it's a traffic stop for speeding or hazardous driving, the focus of this department has always been clear.
Our division, along with the patrol division, we've got a commitment to public safety and to keeping the roads safe for all the citizens, not just the O'Fallon citizens, but also for the people who travel through O'Fallon. A lot of times we can keep the roads safe just by being out there and being a presence, and I think that's important, and having positive impacts and positive interactions with the public.
Landscape professional Bob Deerduff is here to help make your lawn the envy of the neighborhood with a few spring lawn tips.
Spring is upon us in O'Fallon. The breeze is cool and the sun is warming. O'Fallon homeowners take great pride in their yards. We buy fertilizer, we buy seed, herbicide, lawnmowers, string trimmers, and other equipment in an effort to create the ideal lawn. A healthy summer lawn starts with spring yard maintenance.
Every spring I get asked by homeowners what they can do to get their yard ready for the upcoming year. And the first thing I talk about is crabgrass. And immediately the first response back is, I don't have any crabgrass. Well, that's probably true because crabgrass dies during the winter time. And the only way crabgrass comes back again in spring is by seeds that are left behind from last year's parent plants.
Preventing crabgrass is a piece of cake.
So what we need to do in the spring is break the cycle of the crabgrass coming back every year from seed. And we do that with a product that's called a crabgrass preventer. So if you go to the store and take a look, you want to find a fertilizer that also has crabgrass preventer on the label. Not crabgrass killer, because that's labeled for crabgrass that's already begun growing. What you're looking for is crabgrass preventer. And since cell division in plants only occurs at the tip, once you kill that tip, you've eliminated that little seed from establishing itself and giving you crabgrass in the upcoming summer. The problem is when you put down crabgrass preventer, the chemical doesn't know the difference between a crabgrass seed and a bluegrass or fescue or ryegrass seed. So spring is not the time to seed grass seed in your yard because you're preventing those seeds from growing. You can go back to August 25th as a time to plant your grass seed in your yard.
Spring is a perfect time to divide those hardy perennials.
If you have a perennial bed that is clumpy, starting to die back, take your spade and slice through the plant in a crisscross fashion before you dig it out of the ground. Then you can take your spade from the sides and pop out the pieces that you want, typically 2 of the 4, and then move them to another spot in your garden. It's an easy way to divide perennials without having a big mess.
Mulching is always a part of the spring yard checklist. So when is a good time to start mulching?
With a winter like we've had this last winter is very cold, to mulch early might keep the cold in the soil. You might be better off to wait a little bit if you can afford to let the soils warm up again before you lay that mulch layer down. So maybe mid-April might be better than mid-March.
Bob recommends pruning flowering shrubs and also has great tips when it comes to trimming those pesky overgrown trees.
Many flowering shrubs bloom in the spring, and a lot of questions come in is when should I prune flowering shrubs? And the best rule of thumb is when the shrub has finished its bloom time, go ahead and prune it. That way you're not sacrificing blooms for next year. And one last concern, many people want to trim trees. Not sure that tree trimming in the spring is the best idea because trees will tend to bleed heavily when you make a fresh cut in the springtime. You're better off waiting until that soft leaf tissue begins to harden up in the month of June or even July. And I don't really think that you're going to kill a tree by pruning it in the spring, but you may have a better choice of when to prune it later off into the summertime instead of in early April.
Remember to follow these tips and make sure that your lawn care equipment is maintained and ready to go for the summer.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. If you have a good story idea, let us know. You can email us at OFallonTV@OFallon.mo.us. Please remember to give back to your community because OFallon matters to all of us.